Welcome one, welcome all. I apologize for the background music as I was trying to check one thing on my laptop, but we have a fun Millie Maker slate yet again. We have a couple Millies here. It's going to be an awesome time as always, and I am lucky enough to be joined by Snyder. And Snyder, it looks like the golf streets are really, really good. I got a couple of glimpses at the leaderboard. I know Mangone had a few good teams. I know Big T had a few great teams. So it's interesting. I really like the way it's looking. How's your team's looking for golf, and how are you doing on college football today?
Yeah, it's looking pretty good in golf. I got a couple teams up there. We'll see how everything translates tomorrow. I actually was pretty high on Callum Tarrant, and he ended up shooting like 9 under today, so that was nice. I seen he took a picture with Paige Sporonek like on hole 1, and then he just goes out there and nukes, which is kind of funny. But yeah, looking forward to this NFL slate. We got a fun NFL slate. It looks like there's some interesting spots out there, multiple positions. Your boy Burrow looks to be back in full in action. So yeah, looking forward to this. I think we got some great games here.
Yeah, 11 game slate. We have a few teams on a bye week this week. We also have a London game as well. So it's a little bit shorter of a slate than what we have been accustomed to this season. The London game will be covered with complete playbook, cores, everything that you ask will be up there. It'll be all done by Kurt Jones, who was on the show last week. Snyder, that's right. I forgot. I didn't have you last week. You were celebrating your brother's wedding and stuff. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to your family. And we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go game by game. Looks like Drew will be joining us very shortly as well. So this should be a lot of fun. And we're going to start off with the game with New Orleans and the Texans. So the Texans, like you mentioned in previous shows, play at a very fast pace. It was last game where, I feel like we attacked it with Bijan Robinson, who ended up not really doing much except getting there into the end zone at least once there. But this could be a spot where I'm looking at it here. You could have like an Alvin Kamara from this game. You have a few options like Michael Thomas looks to be gaining a little bit of ownership. And then even on just the Texan side of the ball, I mean, you got some banged up wide receivers too. So you could have a lot of opportunity in this one. What's your first read on this game? And do you have much interest in either side of the ball here?
And there's a couple of pieces I'll be looking at. I think Alvin Kamara will be a solid option. I think he's going to be, 20 to 25% ownership, but I think he's in a great spot here inside a different dome, not their dome, but a different dome. But I think he's got great usage, both in the rushing and passing game. Last week he had 22 carries. He didn't have quite the passing volume last week. Only saw 3 catches versus 13, but he got into the box last week. I think this is a great spot for him. He's going to line up well. He's probably a possible cash consideration for many. And in single entry, he'll probably be a little higher. But I think Kamara's fine. Dameon Pierce is always just like kind of a one-off upside million maker play that sometimes I throw into the pool. I won't have much, if any, exposure to him, but he's always in play for like the million maker slates and such. This New Orleans defense is tough, though. I mean, I think it's like 12 or 13 straight games that the totals went under in their games or something like that. They blanked the Patriots last week. Coming into this, I think Robert Woods, he kind of projects is going to be like kind of like a value cheap, kind of maybe kind of popular guy, I think, maybe. I mean, just looking at his target share, what he's been getting recently, 9 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets on every game this year. I don't know if he's going to get much steam, but if you're looking for a cheapie there under 4K, Robert Woods at 3.8K is fine there, I think, if you want to go there. I don't really see too much. This game only has a 42.5 point total, so it doesn't get me too excited. But Dalton Schultz has found the end zone in 2 straight games there. 7 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown last game at 3.6K. That might pique my interest a little bit in the tight end position, which is always pretty dusty.
Yeah, I like that. Dalton Schultz last game exploited the Falcons, who are very weak against the tight end position. We might have a similar opportunity later on with Logan Thomas when we get to that game. And one thing I do find interesting is that cheap wide receiver range, where I got a lot of Robert Woods in my first run. This was done yesterday when the news came out of Foreman and Hubbard being the main backs for their teams. And Rashid Shaheed, I actually got a lot of too, which was surprising to me. We're also joined by third guest. We have Drew Redkachiki here as well. We are able to welcome him. Drew, how are you doing, man? And once you're ready, you can go ahead and dive into some Saints and Texans thoughts here for our first game.
Yeah, sorry guys, I apologize. Man, once like the fall starts, this kids get sick, I get sick, and shit hits the fan. So I apologize. I should have gave you guys a heads up. So for the listeners, it's all my fault that we started late or they started late. So yeah, I kind of heard a bit of what Snyder was talking about. This game isn't super intriguing to me. Honestly, I think Kamara's going to be a little bit overowned. We talked about him last week. And he was kind of in a decent spot, and he did pretty well. So I think people are going to gravitate to him at the price. But overall, like you said, this is like a 42-point total. First game of the slate, I'm not super excited about these pieces. Robert Woods being cheap is certainly fine to be a filler at 3,800. He's one of the cheaper pieces I'm looking at playing this week. I know you mentioned you were going to get a lot of them, or you were getting a lot of them in your bills, which makes sense. So maybe just monitor that you're not like overexposed. I mean, you could just run it blind and get like 60%. It might be a little aggressive, but yeah, overall, man, I'm not super thrilled with the Saints so far, and this game overall doesn't look super intriguing.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually had a pretty funny question too, and I want to kick it to you. And Snyder, I'll actually kick it over to you here real quick. One of my friends asked me this question. It was a very specific one, and beginning of the season, you never would have thought this would be the case. But Devonte Smith or Nico Collins, if you had to play one this week, because Nico Collins comes in this Saints spot where they're going to be down Tank Dell, right? They're going to be missing Tank Dell. It's not like the Saints secondary is anything to be too afraid of. Obviously, their games go under a little bit. But who would you rather have between Nico Collins and Devonte Smith, just for straight up? I know we're usually a DFS show or anything, but I was actually very intrigued by this answer here.
I actually think Devonte Smith might be a little more infused into the offense this week. So I was kind of like one of my off the radar, very 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 low owned million maker dart throws this week. I think Devonte, like last week, they got goaded into it. I mean, they've been featuring AJ Brown since he sparked up and caused all that commotion, but. I think Devonte, when you look back at the stats last year, Devonte was actually the more consistent receiver last year. I think they kind of put a little want into him, and we're going to see, as we'll get into this game a little later, I think AJ Brown could see the Sauce shadow coverage this week. So I think I would go with Devonte. I know he's quite a bit more expensive. They just won't drop the price tag on him, but Nico Collins also has that upside. We've seen it a couple of times. He's got 30-plus points in 2 games this year, but the Saints defense has been really good, though.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, there will be news. We'll get to that game here and eventually. I'm sorry for dragging us off topic, but Sauce Gardner is out. And so is DJ Reed. And so this Jets secondary that has been incredible against wide receivers over the last year and quarter of a year, right? They will no longer have 2 of the best corners in the league. So this will actually be interesting. I told my friend Nico Collins, but you did make a great case for Devonte Smith there. We'll move on from this Texans game. Not a whole lot of intriguing, but there is one-offs, like you guys mentioned. Robert Woods and Rashid Shaheed were 2 of the guys who were hitting the builds the most. I also had a little bit of Alvin Kamara. And then ultimately, that was about it from this game. Dalton Schultz a little bit too. But yeah, it looks like a good game to just have one-offs from and not really overstack it. But the next game here is one that I might overstack quite a bit. And I really hope that T. Higgins remains out. We have seen some similar games in the past where Zach Taylor, Foley practices a guy or maybe says the guy Foley practice and then holds him out or even just plays 1 snap. We saw it with T. Higgins last year. If T. Higgins misses, I don't see how you don't play Jamar Chase. I mean, 192 yards last week, 3 touchdowns, however many catches, 15, 16. Jamar Chase here against a secondary that has been torched by literally everyone. This is the worst secondary for DFS in the league. They give up a lot of points to wide receivers. I love the Bengals side of the ball here. Then you look at it for Seattle, and you got a Kenneth Walker type here who's going to be under-owned just because of all the value we have at running back, all the options that we have. You're going to see a game stack here that could go pretty low-owned if you really want to run back from the Cincinnati team. Snyder, talk to me about this one. What are you doing with Cincinnati, Seattle?
Yeah, Jamar Chase was the key to my good week last week. I played him in cash. I played him in pretty much all of my tournament teams, so that was very tasty last week. The price is at 8.3 this week. I think he's still in a fine spot there. The total is 45 here, which is a little lower. I mean, all these totals are kind of lower this week. Generally, for like the Millie Maker and whatnot, like Stats has talked about, you generally want to look for a total somewhere upwards of 46 to 47, but we don't have many of those this week. So I think Jamar Chase is right in a good spot again this week, 8.3. I think he should probably be priced in that 9K range. So I think we're still getting a really good value on him. Will he be chalky? Yes, I think he'll probably be 20 to 30% owned again this week, but I think I'll probably just jam him in again. It doesn't look like – is T. Higgins going to play? I've seen that he's going to try. I know he's questionable.
So the thing with T. Higgins, so Schefter, obviously we have Chris Ostro in the chat, being very helpful, saying that T. Higgins is going to be on track to play. But last year, I mean, I think we all remember it. T. Higgins came in for one play, then didn't play the rest of the game. It's a rib injury. It's a pain tolerance issue. I'm a Bengals fan, and I just wouldn't trust T. Higgins at all. It does have you a little bit cooled on Jamar Chase, but at the end of the day, we're playing a Millie Maker, and T. Higgins has gotten double-digit targets in almost every game this season that he's played. So that would be interesting. And Drew, what are you doing with this one here? And do you have any interest in the Seattle side outside of Kenneth Walker? And are the Bengals just one of your favorite stacks of the week potentially?
Yeah, I do like the Bengals, but I do think this is a game where if you're going to eat into some of the chalk that Cincinnati's going to have, you're probably going to want some Seattle pieces coming back, especially in the Millie Maker. You're going to want to maximize like this like going to like 60 points or something like that. So, yeah, obviously Chase is in a great spot. I've been playing really well. I have the opposite side of the Snyder deal last week. I paid up for Justin Jefferson, which was almost 10K. So that did not pan out very well. So that was painful. But yeah, I think honestly, every piece of the Cincinnati offense from Mixon and Chase with Burrow stacking that side is totally fine. I don't know if there's I'm kind of hesitant on Burrow to go like crazy overexposed. I know people jumped on him last week. They obviously had a great game. I'm still waiting for like the 1 week where he gets steamed up and the ankle pops out and we have a big debacle. But I'm not going to wish any juju on bad juju on Burrow. But yeah, I think honestly, man, from a game theory perspective, Cincinnati's going to be really popular. The only way to really like leverage the field, if you're going to play Cincinnati in like the big field tournaments, you got to take a Seattle piece coming back. Whether that's Lockett, which would probably be like preferred. Metcalf obviously is fine. You got to take someone. Honestly, Kenneth Walker has done really well. He might be the guy that, bizarre enough, if you think the offense is going to go off the running back, man, Walker has had a ton of like really close 10-yard and in touchdowns. So could just be a weird way to get different. But yeah, for me, man, Cincinnati's fantastic, but I do want to pair this with the Seattle side. I don't want it to get out of hand and Cincinnati just kind of takes it easy in the second half.
Yeah, and the Bengals have been really bad against the run. And, Kenneth Walker has been a touchdown machine. The worry with Kenneth Walker, of course, is that, Charbonnet has been getting worked into the offense quite a bit, stealing half the snaps. But snaps don't always mean workload, and the workload has been clearly in Kenneth Walker's favor. Tyler Boyd last week got a little bit of steam, heading into the weekend. If Higgins plays, does hurt him a little bit. You can't really trust Boyd there. But if Higgins, for any reason, they're said, he might be limited, you know how that works in the NFL, right? I'll definitely go right back to Boyd if Higgins again. So
are you going to play some Trent Irwin again?
Oh, God. A funny story about Trent Irwin is that one of my coworkers at my previous job, he's a dog. He slides into those DMs, man. I heard that he gets feisty in the DMs, Anyway, so Tyler
Ruby,
Boyd.
There's one more guy. I know you're a fan of this guy. He's down to 3.6K now. He's still getting the targets. Is it time to pull the trigger on JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba?
He's a guy that you'd rather be early on than late, and the family does have a lot of ties to the Cincinnati, Southern Ohio area. Obviously, his brother plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Am I right? So Jackson Smith and Jigba, homecoming, sort of, not exactly or whatever, but I do want to be early on him than late. I just think his talent, he needs to run beyond the line of scrimmage. I don't know why every pass is happening at the line of scrimmage or even behind it. It was frustrating on prime time last week, but I'll take the risk at 3,600 there, Snyder, for sure. It's a great run back because if you're fitting in Chase or whatever, and I know we already have enough value, but you heard me when I said I have Woods and Shaheed, who are a very similar price. Why not flex those to and Jigba run back there? So I like that one.
I think he's got elite upside. I mean, the dude is such a good talent. I mean, coming in from the college to the NFL, I thought he was just gonna pick it up and smash from day one, kind of like Chase and Jefferson and those guys did.
That's exactly what I thought, but obviously Seattle using him as a third wide receiver does kind of put kind of wind in our sails or push the wind back on us. But anyway, we'll move on from that game. Love Joey B as well. I'll just make sure that's known too. But I have the Colts and Jaguars next. So obviously Anthony Richardson, he's been better than I ever would have thought coming into the league, but he has struggled to be healthy. And Gardner Minshew is going to get the start today, which probably good for his wide receiving core. Like when you have Josh Downs and Michael Pittman now, who are both playable, when probably the previous few weeks, I probably wouldn't have considered them at these prices. 4,100 for Downs, 6,300 for Pittman, both very strong plays, Snyder. And then you'll have to look at the Jacksonville side of the ball. I know our guy Bobby Hare did an article, and he put it in his preview. He said, have some fun this week, play some Calvin Ridley into our Discord. So do you have much interest after Ridley's explosion in the entire second half against Buffalo? Do you have any interest in maybe stacking this game up a little bit?
Yeah, I actually like this game quite a bit. I think you can play both quarterbacks. I think they're both firmly in play. You got Minshew at 5K. I think Minshew is probably, you could debatably say he's the best backup in the league. I think from what he's done last year, he had some games where he popped off. 2 years ago, he had some really good games as well. I think he almost scored 30 in one spot where he filled in last year. I really like this spot for him. And then Trevor Lawrence is 6.5K. I mean, he's got huge upside, just hasn't really fully untapped it yet. Finally threw for 300 yards last week, 315 last week. So we finally got that little bonus there that we were always kind of searching for with the QBs. I think there's a lot of pieces in this game, though. I mean, I think you can play ETN for sure. He'll probably be pretty highly owned. I think he's one of the better plays for cash, so that'll kind of carry over into GPPs and such. So we'll probably see him 20+% owned, but he's a great option. Zach Moss is kind of an interesting low-owned upside, I think. I don't think many people are going to go to him. He actually had the best game anyone's ever had against its Tennessee rush defense last week, 165-2. I think you could go there if you want for 6,200. I don't think he's going to see much ownership at all. And then I gotta shout out our guy Kay Fallett because he got me on some Josh Downs last week. I played him in a little bit of tournaments as a pivot off of the other cheaper value, the cheaper chalky guys there. And I think Downs is in another good spot here. I think he even gets a slight bump up with Minshew in there. I think he's another guy that we could see, 6 to 7 catches from again this week potentially. He's hit that twice in his last 3 games. He had 8 catches and then 6 catches last week. Josh Downs at 4.1K is definitely a guy I'll have interest in. And then Calvin Ridley. I definitely like Calvin Ridley, especially when he's going to come in sub 10%. I think we should see him. I think Christian Kirk's the guy everybody's going to want to jam in there. He's going to be 20 to 30%, or maybe even higher than 30% in some cash single entry stuff. But Calvin Ridley is the alpha in this offense, like we saw day one. And last week, 7 for 122. I think he finds the box here. I think he puts up 25+ in this game is my bold call with Calvin Ridley as well. I really like him. 6'7", good price tag. Christian Kirk is definitely in play too. I love the double there with Kirk and Ridley with Lawrence. Run it back with Downs. I think this is a great spot to target this game.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And if you look at our positional matchup sheet on the Run Pure Sports website, it shows you how each team defends against each position when it comes to conceding fantasy points. The Indianapolis defense has not been stellar at all. They're actually a minus in every position for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Let's see here. Drew, do you have any interest in maybe stacking up the Jaguar side and, running it back with a Pittman or a Downs in any of your lineups?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit different. I do like the Jacksonville side, but I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical on Minshew moving the ball super well against Jacksonville. I'm just going to assume that Jacksonville gets the ball back quite a bit, and Jacksonville can run up the score. I was really impressed with what they did in London last week. So I'm kind of hoping for Kirk, ETN. You can play him obviously with Lawrence, but I'm not super excited to play any of the Indiana pieces in like a full game stack at least. Like it would be like a Josh Downs, like a cheap piece. I'm not super excited to play Minshew at 5K. I think there's some other options I'd rather even pay up for a little bit because honestly, Lawrence is $1,500 more. I just think there's more ceiling for some of the guys that are only like $1,000 more, and there's plenty of value on the slate. So yeah, I'm a little bit different here. I think Jacksonville has a fantastic game. I think a lot of pieces crush. I don't think Indiana is worth the run back. I just think there's going to be enough turnovers to get Jacksonville there, and Indiana doesn't keep up. So that's kind of my take on this game. But yeah, I love Jacksonville. I mean, Kirk's my favorite wide receiver. I mean, you could play Lawrence, and then honestly, ETN doesn't really sniper too many of the touchdowns anyway. So I think ETN gets the volume, gets a couple TDs, and Kirk at 5,400 is just too cheap. I mean, for a 25-point team total almost, Kirk is in a fantastic spot as even a one-off if you want to do that.
I love it. And actually, like looking at it ownership-wise, the Jaguars are getting a lot of steam. I didn't realize that we're expecting double-digit ownerships for almost the entire offense. And actually, the lowest owned piece of this offense that's viable is Calvin Ridley. So I actually did not know that coming in. So, and I think you're right, Drew. I think that's a good point. I do like Downs and Pittman as the one-off. Snyder, I won't get on board with Zach Moss just because I'm hearing that
I don't know if I'll play him.
We're seeing Jonathan Taylor is expected to get more work. I do think that they're going to gradually bring him in. I mean, he had no training camp or anything like that. I mean, I guess he did. And, whatever the whole situation became. But I do think it'll be closer to 50-50 split than it was last week when Moss just terrorized the Titans defense there.
Yeah, it was wild. They only gave him 10. They give him that huge contract, and they bring him back, and like, oh, you can play 10 snaps.
You know what? I was hating on it, but at the same time, it makes sense, right? Gradually bring him in when he hasn't been hit all off season or hasn't been hit in 10 months or whatever. So at least can understand that point from just a health perspective. We also have a good game here in the next one. This one is Carolina and Miami. And real quick, I want to give a big shout out to Lil Trop. He's been a member for a while, got married, new house, new furniture, new slate, new money. Congratulations, Lil Trop, getting married, man. This is going to be a great slate for you. I hope you win the $1 million, Lil Trop. And we have a fun one here, which is Carolina and the Miami Dolphins. So Miami, obviously, we don't have A-Chain this week. He actually won't have him for the next 4 or 5 weeks, it looks like. So we do get Raheem Mostert at heavy chalk today, or heavy chalk tomorrow. Tyreek Hill comes in. He's expected to be over 20% owned. And then obviously you have Tua and Waddle here that are intriguing. And then obviously on the Carolina side of the ball, Miles Sanders is out. Chuba Hubbard is supposed to get the majority of the workload. And that's going to be a great play because he is only priced at 4,300. There's a lot of good pieces from this game. And I haven't even mentioned, you could maybe ride Adam Thielen's hot hand here. Snyder, give me the breakdown of what you plan to do with this one. It's going to be a really popular game, just not even for the Millie Maker, but just in general.
Yeah, I think the Miami side is going to be ultra popular with no reason not to play them. Mostert should probably see 30 upwards 40% ownership in some contests this week. I think he's like a cash lock. I'll play him there. I'm going to play him in tournaments. I'm going to get as much Mostert as I can. I was worried about what's his name coming back, Watkins or the other guy that split time with him last year. I can't remember. He's going to be out this week, but I was kind of worried about him. Now it looks like Salman Ahmed and another guy is going to so-called split snaps with him, but I'm not going to play any of those guys. Chris Brooks or Ahmed, I'm not going to play any of them. Mostert's solid. Chuba Hubbard's going to be ultra popular as a value piece. Not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. There's a couple of value pieces this week. I haven't really been a big Chuba fan, though. Even last year when he was like ultra popular, I wasn't really playing him. I think he could be a fade that I just get off of that, especially in tournaments. There's very little chance I play him in tournaments. I think he could catch a lot of dump offs here as I expect Miami to just kind of run away with this. We could potentially see another Broncos spot here where they hang like 50 points on him or so. But it's all systems go for me with this Dolphins team. They love playing fast. They're gonna run the score up on these guys. I really like Jalen Waddle this week if I'm gonna play this with Tua, because Waddle's probably gonna be somewhere 3 to 7% owned, I think, this week. We're gonna get him at super low ownership. They just refuse to lower his price tag, which is gonna keep all the ownership away from him. And he's got maybe not as much upside as Tyreek, but the dude still has a ton of upside. I love him this week for tournaments. Tyreek Hill, I played him every week. I'll definitely have some teams with Tua Tyreek Waddle. I'll try and make that work. Tyreek's basically almost guaranteed for 100 yards and a touchdown, it seems, as far as this season's gone. But, I love the Dolphins here. And then from Carolina's side, I don't really see myself going to too much. I played Adam Thielen. I played Adam Thielen a lot when he was way cheaper in the 4Ks and stuff. He's approaching 6K here. Yeah, he could be good. I think I may look to run it back with like a Jonathan Mingo, though, for cheaper. Last week he came back, 7 targets, caught 5 of them, 6 targets, 8 targets. They've really been trying to get him going this year. So I think Jonathan Mingo is my preferred option on the Carolina side. And I don't think he's going to be highly owned at all. I think he should be sub 5%.
Perfect. And I'm going to throw a situation at you here, Drew. So this one is, what advice do you have on anyone who clicks Mostert and Chuba into the lineup? Because that is going to be a very popular combo, right? That will probably be one of the most popular combos just in terms of game stacking, because you can do a mini stack where you just have Mostert and Chuba from this game. You think it has correlation. Both can catch the ball a little bit. And I'm also going to throw this situation out at you. My top owned defense is the 2K Panthers as things stand at 18%. I don't know if that's going to hold. I probably won't. This was more of a raw sim and favorite sim. But do you have interest in punting defense down at 2K?
I don't, man. We're seeing some crazy defensive scores, and going against Miami probably isn't my cheap punt. So, yeah, I won't be brave enough to venture to the Panthers D, but you will certainly be unique, I think, and obviously they'll be cheap. So you can jam in however many studs. You could probably jam in all the Miami guys against Carolina, and just hopefully get zero defensive points. But I obviously all the pieces on Miami are fantastic. Mostert, obviously in a really good spot, very cheap with no A-chain. The only real piece that I'm interested in Carolina, so Mingo's cheap and that's fine, but I think Thielen's turning out to like be their workhorse. Like they're honestly his last four weeks he's gone 9 targets, 14 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets. So I think they just keep feeding the ball to Thielen. He might get in the box once, but I think the volume gets him over the line at 5,900. Again, I think Miami just runs them over, but that's really the only piece. It could be a run back or even a one-off. Obviously, you probably have pieces of Miami in every lineup most likely, but every piece of Miami is really viable. The Waddle deal is really interesting. Everyone's going to jam Tyreek Hill at 9,300. Waddle's going to be nothing owned relative to the rest of the Miami offense. So he's probably the best spot for a Millie Maker lineup.
Yeah, I do like Waddle. You guys both said that, Snyder and Drew. You guys both were on Waddle a little bit there. That's a great pivot. We've obviously seen the same upside when it was the Ravens game last year where Waddle popped off for 40. And it's just crazy. He's going to go completely, an eighth of the ownership here. I think Chuba is going to be my top owned running back tomorrow. I think Dante Foreman's going to be close second. And we'll get to Foreman here in just a couple of games. But I just think he's going to be a capable pass catcher. It seems that our guy Bryce Young loves to check it down as well, and he's already had a game where he's gotten 5 catches. So I think the floor there is good. And I think just getting the majority of the work. I played college football this week, and it feels like I have an injury every single slate. So let's knock on wood for my guy Chuba Hubbard as my top owned running back, and hopefully it doesn't follow the college football trend. So let's move.
I see this. Hey, real quick, I see this comment about the defense. Honestly, they've been putting up 30 points. They've been winning GPPs every single week. I tell you who else has been. Is Miami won the Millie Maker every week, like a 4-man Miami stack? It's been almost every week, right?
Was it last week? It had to be Chase and
Chase was on there, but Miami. I don't know. I think even last week, Miami, there was at least
Tyreek might have been on there. I don't know if it would have been hard to fit
on there again. I think A-Chain was on there too.
Yeah, I played A-Chain
maybe not a full stack, maybe not a four-person stack, but like I think Miami pieces, at least one. I think at least two maybe, but have been on every single Millie Maker lineup so far. It's been nuts.
Yeah, that is actually intriguing to look at. I know A-Chain probably was, right? And you have to think that Tyreek Hill was as well. The winning score was 259. It was the Jets defense. They got a late, what was that? The pickup 6 there when Russell Wilson fumbled it. It was Joe Burrow, but it did have A-Chain. It was A-Chain. So they still had Miami piece in there, and Hill was more than viable enough.
So that's the group. Just at least one Miami piece.
That's intriguing. What, they have the highest team total by far, right?
And they have been every week. I mean, besides the Buffalo game, maybe. I mean, that's probably the only week they weren't shipping.
Yeah, I mean, that's intriguing. The highest team total by a mile. We know where the production's coming from. They always have a narrow target tree and stuff. And I love Mostert this week too. I mean, I just think that they're going to use – I think Ahmed is someone where if it was a slate like before, like in the past few weeks where we needed a guy cheap, which we don't really do this week because we already have so many options with Foreman, Hubbard, and even more, I would be interested because like I think they do want to use 2 running backs, and Mostert isn't the most durable player in the world. He's not going to go out there and just probably carry the rock 25 times. So I don't know. I think if you're playing the showdown slate, I would definitely consider playing Ahmed and Mostert together. That would be a fun thing to do. Enough about this Miami game. Let's move on to Washington and the Atlanta Falcons here. So Washington has been a little bit up and down. Obviously, last Thursday, they gave up a lot of points through the air. They've been very bad against wide receivers in general. They don't really have to worry about the wide receiver too much here, wide receiver position too much, except for Drake London, who has just been inconsistent. And it's not his fault or anything like that. I mean, it's the offense. It's the slow pace. It's Desmond Ridder. But you look at this game, and it doesn't look the most sexy on paper. But Atlanta is one of the worst teams against tight ends. Logan Thomas has, as long as he stays healthy, has proven to be a very good player yet again. He's always had the talent, but it's definitely been the concussions thing that's held him back quite a bit in his career. I like Logan Thomas here, and I think Drake London's cheap enough at 4,800, and even Bijan Robinson's only 7,200. So I guess there's pieces on this game that you might like. Snyder, I'll kick it to you first. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think this is maybe the diamond in the rough matchup here. The question is does everybody play Kyle Pitts now? He finally got some volume last week. I mean, the price tag is plummeted. It was at 3.3 last week. Now it's up to 3.5. Finally saw some targets, got some catches, 7 for 87 last week, priced at 3.5. I think I do prefer Logan Thomas over him, though. I played Logan Thomas on that showdown slate versus the Bears there. It did well there. You've seen a lot of the targets there. I actually like Sam Howell a decent amount in tournaments this week, 5.5 for him. He's looked serviceable a couple times this year. Last week, definitely. The week before, he was fine, too. He's put up 19-plus points in 3 of his last 4 games. At 5.5, definitely think he's a guy that can throw for 300 yards again. He was over 300 last week. I think he was like 299 the week before, and then he was 290 or something a couple games ago. So he's definitely got some upside there. I'll definitely have some Howell in my million makers there. Howell to Thomas or Howell to Jahan Dotson. I've been more of a Dotson guy than a McLaurin guy. I think Dotson's a better overall talent, and he's younger, so I kind of lean him. But I did play Bijan Robinson in cash last week. Survived it, didn't kill me, but he didn't look that good out there. He only averaged 3 yards a carry, far from the 5, 6, and 7 he has been averaging in the weeks before. I think this is a good bounce back spot for Bijan Robinson, though. He didn't see as much work in the passing game last week either. Only caught 2 catches last week, and weeks before he's caught 4+ catches in every game. So definitely going to look back to Bijan there. Bijan at 7.2K. I think he's a solid option there. He may see a little bit of ownership. I think he'll still be somewhere in that 10 to 15% range. So nothing too crazy there. So I'm going to go there. I don't mind either of these defenses though either. I mean, they're kind of up there in price, 3-1, 3-6. I think they're both maybe fine. I think the Falcons defense, maybe they get pushed up a little, probably not too much though. I guess that's Washington with the really good pass rush there. Neither one of them looking into it has really done much though. 42.5 total here in the dome, but I think there's definitely some spots here though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think the thing with this Washington team is that they spread the ball out so much, right? You could think you're high on any of these guys. I think Logan Thomas is really the only safe wide receiver, right? In terms of like, he's going to get production because it feels like Sam Howell always looks for him. But then again, these wide receivers, I mean, Atlanta's been extremely good against wide receivers this season so far, using our positional matchup sheet on the Run Pure Sports website. I do think that there is some exploitation here with the Atlanta side of the ball. Like you were mentioning, Bijan bounce back week. We call it the flop lag here, RPS, obviously. The flop lag with Bijan after being super chalk. It looks like he's projecting for under 10% ownership. Drew, what are you doing with Bijan in this game in general?
Yeah, I got to go back to Bijan. Played him last week in a chalky situation. Obviously didn't pay off. But I think Washington's the sneaky side, to be honest. They've had, besides the game against Buffalo, they've had 20 points, 35 points, 31 points, and 20 points scored. You said they kind of spread it out, but I think if you can get a piece with Sam Howell, you'll be in pretty good shape. So like Sam Howell at 5,500 for me, I think is being underprojected across the industry. I'm looking at like even in SaberSim and a couple other places, like around 30 to 35 passing attempts. Like he had 51 passing attempts just last week. That's not to say he can sustain 51. I'm not sure any QB can, but he hasn't had passing attempts under 32 like one time this season. He's been like 39 and 41, two of his last three, or three of his last four. So I do like Sam Howell quite a bit, and then pairing him with Logan Thomas, like you said, is very cheap, and that would be very, very unique. Not super sold on Terry McLaurin, but I definitely want to get some stacks of either McLaurin or Samuel. But yeah, I'm actually more interested in the Washington side than Atlanta. Atlanta should get a lot more ownership, or at least a little bit more ownership. So that's where I'm going to get different tomorrow is a few more pieces on the Washington side. And honestly, I think Sam Howell carried me last week in a lot of teams. I mean, they were like 2% owned that entire stack everywhere. So I'm not sure how I got on so much, but I'm going to probably do the same again tomorrow.
Yeah, it makes sense there. It's definitely interesting on Sam Howell. I mean, well, that's a decent price tag too. What is it here? Just had it up. 5,500. That's not bad at all.
Against Atlanta too. I mean, like Buffalo, they got blown out. And it's expected. Atlanta, I don't think is incredibly great. So, yeah, I'll take Sam Howell against some Atlanta D.
So naturally, just thinking, right? And I don't know if it's true. I'm going to look it up right now. But Atlanta has been incredible defensively in terms of like preventing fantasy points at the running back position and the wide receiver position. I mean, they've faced some good opponents too. I mean, Green Bay, you can say what you want, but then Detroit, Jacksonville, and even Houston. I don't know. I'm just skittish going anyone except for Logan Thomas here. I think I'm just scared of doing it for this Washington team outside of Logan Thomas. And I think I'm with you guys, though. I think it's Bijan. Go right back to him. Hopefully that rebound spot happens. Drake London, could be nice. We have another game here. And Minnesota has obviously been a fantasy gold mine the past couple seasons. So Justin Jefferson is out for Minnesota. We know that. Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne expected to kind of fill in. TJ Hawkinson as well, I really, really like at 6,600. And then for the Bears, you have Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson both out. That leaves Dante Foreman to be the main guy at the running back position here for the Chicago Bears. You also get a little bit of steam, just slightly, on DJ Moore and Justin Fields after what they did last week. It's not a ton of steam at all. I guess I shouldn't say it is because they're both projected under 5%. But this could be a good game, a good target here. I really like, the idea of just playing Fields with Moore. And hell, I mean, we've seen it done in the past. I mean, you could run him naked. What are you doing with this one, Snyder?
I'm not sure. I think I might be off of Foreman here, too, if he's going to be chalking GPPs at least. And, I mean, this guy has been just a healthy scratch the first few weeks. Hasn't been good enough to crack, but I realized they had Roschon Johnson is who they drafted highly, and they didn't want to carry another running back because they had another one playing the special teams and such. But, I mean, you look at some of his games, he's popped in a few spots, but I'll have to dive into a little more, see if I really want to play him or not. I could definitely see him flipping over like a 7 or 8 point game or something right there, and that's definitely not going to be good enough in tournaments, especially at 25% ownership or such. But I think this game is actually going to play really slow. I don't really see much in this game. I think they're going to rely on the legs from Justin Fields a lot in this game too. Last week you saw more of him on the ground last week. They kind of scripted a little more to him. I think we're going to see more of that from Fields, which could take away from a little bit of Foreman. Haven't decided what I'm really going to do with Foreman here. 4.4K. I know he's going to be a very popular option. If he puts up like a 25 ball, you're probably dead without him. But if he puts over a 7 or an 8, I mean, you're on the opposite side of that. So really not much from me in this game at all. The Vikings, I don't think, should be favored in this game without Justin Jefferson going on the road here. Kirk Cousins away from the dome generally isn't the best opposition there. Jordan Addison's price tag is up a little bit now, up 400 from last week. He's a fine option if you want to go there, I guess. I think this is a cross-off game for me, though. I don't think I'm going to have much exposure at all in this game. Maybe I could get to the Chicago defense at 2,500. I think that's an option I may explore. They scored 10 points last week against the Commanders. They had 5 sacks, and they got an interception there as well. So maybe I kind of punt the defense here in some teams. No real conviction for me in this game, though.
Yeah, so the chat is saying that there's going to be 25-mile-per-hour winds in this one. And we saw how that affected Mahomes and Russell Wilson on Thursday night. Yeah. Wasn't fun. And actually, the Bears are my second most popular defense behind the Carolina Panthers. I think it's just a trend of just wanting to punt. Drew, what are you doing with this one? Are you afraid of the weather? I haven't seen the total just yet. It's down to you know what? I'll get to it later. But what are you doing with this one? 43.5 now. I think it was just a little bit higher earlier in the week. So
I'll check.
Yeah, I'm honestly most interested in the defenses. To be honest, they're super cheap. Both quarterbacks throw some picks. I'm not going to be on the Foreman train tomorrow. I'm sorry. I'm going to be on the opposite side of Rubio in this situation. I'm not even sure Herbert with what his usage was in the same spot would be any more viable at the same price anyway. So I think Fields does so much work on the ground. I can't really count on getting a ton of dump offs in this game script to Foreman. I think over the last couple of games, even Herbert was getting like 3 to 5. So it would have to be on the ground for Foreman. You'd have to get a touchdown or two. And honestly, that would probably far exceed value. But if they don't move the ball terribly well, which they might not, I think it just goes through Fields. So Fields would be the one-off. We've talked about that before with a couple of quarterbacks in situations where the game script can go a bunch of different ways. There's always one common denominator. It's always like the QB that can rush, and Fields would be that guy. So 7,300 for him would be fine in certain contests. But yeah, I'm honestly not super excited about any offensive piece. Hawkinson's too expensive for me. I know they're going to run the ball through him quite a bit, but honestly, I think the defense is probably where I'm gonna be overexposed, probably to Vikings and Bears.
Yeah, and I think the argument for Foreman here would be that his props get it to about 61 yards total on the ground and through the air. He's got plus 170 score, but also the fact that Roshan Johnson isn't there too. I mean, Roshan was getting over almost half the work, and he was being the guy who was utilized in the passing game. There's a chance that Foreman is just the bell cow here, but I'm with you in terms of like this offense.
Rubio, what if he hits both of those props and gets 12.7?
For the Millie Maker? No.
You're probably dead.
Yeah, for the Millie Maker, I wouldn't love that. But for single entry and stuff like that, I mean, 12.7 from a 4K guy, and it allows you to get these stud wide receivers like Chase, and you don't have to spend down at quarterback. I don't know. I'd entertain it.
There's still no points per reception. Like I'm looking at Roshan. Like he was getting like 1 and 2 targets the last 4 games. So
he did get concussed last game, but
So I'm not even counting that game. Denver, he had 1. Kansas City had 2. Tampa Bay had 2. Like
correct.
I'm not sure there's a ton of usage that's going to be flowing to the Foreman. I could be wrong, but
I just think the price can justify it. Like if you're getting a number 1 running back against a team that has been gouged before on the ground, whether it was Philly, and obviously they stopped the run against the Chargers and stuff, but they were beat through the air. I don't know. If they might be more inclined to run it too if the winds are as bad as they say. So I understand though. I definitely don't want to get too.
Well, who's good at running?
Get Justin Fields. Yeah,
Justin Fields
hasn't looked like it this year. No, but I'm with you. I don't really want to go overboard on it. But I definitely will probably have around 25, 30%.
Smash the field.
Yeah, I think that might be the best decision here. I mean, he's projected for 16 right now. I think that's a little low.
You had to choose one. Would you go Foreman or Chuba?
Oh, Chuba's got the better floor. Chuba, I have confidence that I'll be utilized in the pass game. Foreman, I do not. And I think that kind of goes into their projections too. I think Foreman's going to be just slightly behind Chuba. I'll probably be over the field on Chuba for sure, and then kind of even or just a tad over with Foreman, which it's looking. I better get.
Gonna set a rule for max one of those two. I know you've been one of the best GPP players over the last 4 to 6 months, and Rubio's just been crushing all sports in the GPP landscape. Will you put a rule in for max?
I thought you were going to say years. I thought you were going to say 4 to 6 years. You just said months. Brutal.
Oh man, I'm a hockey guy. Apparently, I've gotten top 3 in the hockey streets 2 of the past 3 nights. That's all I'm good for. College football.
Every sport, Rubio. What are you talking about?
It's fun. I will not make a rule just because I do love the combo it makes. My main team might have both too, and I hate contradicting my main team. But there's ways to get a slightly different, and you don't have to do the double punt. It's going to be popular. And a move could be just to avoid that double punt or just both punts in general and spend up at running back and then kind of see how different you get from the field in that case.
I mean, it could be like defenses where you're getting a defense that scores 30 points instead of punting it for 10.
Yeah, 100%. Here, I like this one. Yeah, Chris has been active in the chat today, Drew. This one's just for you. Foreman with the Bears D. Cheap stack, baby. That's what we love. That's what we love. That's correlation right there.
And that's what DK sends back to your account. Cheap stack.
Here we go. I cheap stack. Geez, come on now. We got the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson with a rotator cuff bone bruise, whatever the fuck you call it. Either way, he's quit on the team, and they're 10-point, at least 10-point dogs to the San Francisco 49ers. This game is probably the grossest of them all. I know here in Ohio, it's been pretty shitty weather for the most part. I don't know how bad it is in Cleveland, but I have heard that it's going to be bad. The Browns basically have a 13-point team total as well, with P.J. Walker getting the start. I don't love this one because I don't love San Francisco going against this Cleveland defense. But, I mean, San Francisco might have really good field position every time they get the ball. Snyder, any interest in the 49ers and any interest in the Browns? I already know the answer to that one.
Yeah, there's one piece in this game that I'm really interested in. I mean, the one way to beat this, the Browns defense, is they got a really good pass rush, good defense, but they have been susceptible against the run. And we're getting Christian McCaffrey, the best player in the NFL. I know he's priced up, but he's going to be under 10%, it looks like. I'm definitely going to be overweight on McCaffrey. I keep jamming him in every single week. This week will not be any different. I'm just going to finally get him not 30% owned. I'm going to get him probably under 10% owned. I know he was kind of stifled a little last week against Dallas, but, I mean, that game just got away from him. They didn't even need to use him. I mean, they just dusted the Cowboys last week. Prior to that, he scored 22 points in every single game. I think we should see him probably put up 25 to 30 in this matchup. I love McCaffrey here in this spot as he's not going to be owned. They're a big favorite here. I think he's going to see 20 touches in this game, probably 25 points. So I'm definitely going to be jamming in McCaffrey at 9.5. Not much else, though, in this game. I may try and get up to the 49ers defense if I can. I think they could just destroy this game. I think they could cause some havoc in this game and put up potentially 20-plus points in this game. They're starting the Browns are starting P.J. Walker, I believe, former XFL standout, but I think there's levels to this game, and I think P.J. Walker is in for a tough Sunday. So I love McCaffrey. I love the 49ers defense, and that's about it.
Yeah, you can get some correlation there, of course, with the running back and defense, just like Foreman and the Bears defense. You know, you can get some really nice correlation there too. Drew, you just talked about it when I was talking about punting defenses. You said, well, defenses, you know, we might want to take more of a priority on. I mean, they have been winning tournaments. They have been getting 30 pieces. And it was the Jets last week who got 18 against Denver. 49ers are coming in. We're 4K, right? And we've seen defenses priced 4,800, 4,700 already this season. This is a really extremely low total for P.J. Walker, for P.J. Walker's Browns here. I'm with you, Snyder. I think the 49ers defense we can entertain quite a bit. Drew, I hate to just lead you off with a defense question, but you can also talk about the 49ers side of the ball as well. How much interest do you have in the 49ers defense this week?
Yeah, this is the spot, man. You got to look at ceilings. And honestly, if team totals, you don't see let's just call it 10 points right now for Cleveland Browns. It's 12.5 or 13, depending on the site. 49ers defense at 4K is looking pretty good. I don't even know what the interception props are for for PJ Walker, but I'm sure they're pretty good. So I'll take the 49ers defense tomorrow and have a good share. They should be like 10 to 15% owned. Again, most defenses get pretty spread out. Like that's kind of what's been winning tournaments because there's not like 30% owned defenses. It's just there's just 31 points being thrown up every other week, it seems like. But I'm honestly not excited about the offensive side of San Francisco either. I think McCaffrey's a bit expensive. When you look at ceilings, like for Saber, like using the 85th percentile, he's got a 85th percentile of 31 points. And honestly, I think there's other running backs you could get for 7,500 or 8K or less that has the same ceiling in certain game environments. So I'm not really super thrilled about this entire game. And that's probably why I'm just going to lean on having some San Francisco 49ers defense.
I like it. And that obviously I'm going to give them a bump. I think you're going to have websites. I think RPS is even more aggressive than SaberSim. I think we gave them a 10.2 point projection. I think, obviously, it is dependent. It is very, high variance and stuff. But project the 49ers defense pretty high. See what you get. What are they projected ownership wise?
They're fifth as far as 85th percentile. They're fourth tomorrow.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
And again, the ceilings are very, very bad because the ceiling's like 15 points, and honestly, the ceiling is like 30 points. We've seen so, but yeah, I mean they're up there, and they're only 4K. They're probably the best value defense besides looks like Detroit has a pretty good defensive line against Tampa Bay. So.
Yeah, that Detroit one will be interesting too. That's another one of my top teams. I actually didn't get any 49ers defense in the first run. I didn't have them projected that much higher. I know Saber kind of condenses the defenses a little bit, so that'll be one way I try and get a little bit different. We'll definitely
variance. Add some randomness.
Oh no, it's the Sims. It's the Sims. I haven't done any uniques yet either, so I don't want to say I have none. But first run through it didn't have anything, so I'll definitely add some uniques and definitely get a bunch of 49ers defense.
I think I might project them for 12 points. What are you going to project them for?
Yeah, I think 11 or 12 is good. I think you'll hit them in that case. I think you're going to hit in that case. And it'll be interesting. Even the Vikings and like Lions stuff had higher projections for some reason. So definitely up the 49ers projection. And we'll move on to the next game here. And this one is a thriller. It is the Patriots and the Raiders. The Raiders are actually a very good team for fantasy. I love their showdown slates. Came awfully close last Monday, but I don't love this game in general. I do think it is worth noting on the Las Vegas side, though, is that they have such a condensed, form of getting fantasy points, right? It's Devonte Adams, Jacoby Myers, and Josh Jacobs. I mean, that's all you really have to worry about on the offensive end. New England has been blown out in 2 straight games, but they are still rating as an above-average defense overall against fantasy point in terms of conceding fantasy points. Snyder, what are you doing with this one? And did you see the news that Malik Cunningham is called up to the roster and will have a role? Consider that one for your 5K to first showdown contest, 6K Malik Cunningham. But it is interesting. New England's going to probably fiddle around with Mac Jones a little bit, huh?
That's interesting for sure. We got quite the game here. You got McDaniels against Belichick here. I kind of think this is going to be like an ugly game. We got a 41.5 point total here. Josh Jacobs is definitely seeing the volume. I mean, he's been getting just elite volume, but 7K, his ownership's going to be up there. I know he's kind of a cash fringe in play for cash type of guy. A couple good games. He's found the end zone in the last 2 games. Not sure I get there in tournaments. So 7K, if he's going to be that popular. He found the end zone the last 2 weeks. If he doesn't, he probably gets 13 points or something. So I'm still on the fence on him. Maybe you guys can talk me into playing him or not. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I think this is kind of just like a cross-off throwaway game for me, though. Jacoby Myers, kind of revenge spot there, 5'8". He had a really good game last week. He'll probably be in the player pool for sure for me. He's had 7 or more catches in 3 of the last 4 games he's played, so he's definitely a guy I'll have in the player pool for that cheap price tag of 5'8". Might be the only guy. Devonte, you expect Belichick to take away the best option on the team like always. I think that's Devonte, so he's going to see another tough matchup like the Packers just doubled him last week and tried to take him away. Put Jair on him and then kind of had a guy over the top kind of bracketing him and basically took him out of the game. I think we could see Belichick kind of use somewhat of the same deal there. Jacobs, possibly, depending on if you guys can talk me into it. Maybe the Raiders defense I could maybe get talked into, but they are way up there, though. I'm definitely not paying 3.9. I just seen their price tag. Definitely not playing the Raiders defense at 3.9. Maybe the Patriots defense, though, at 2.6. The Raiders can turn the ball over and such. Maybe I get on some Patriots defense here at 2.6. I'll have them in the pool, though.
Yeah, Patriots defense can make a little bit of sense here. Drew, what about you here? You like this game at all?
I do like Jacobs. I think he's going to be popular, but I think the volume on the ground and he's getting some dump offs has been really good. I think Devonte Adams is he's not getting pushed out, but like he's obviously had some comments, complaining about Las Vegas, about the way the direction the team is going. I think he was limited 2 weeks ago, and we saw it with the targets dropping to 4. I think there's a path where Devonte Adams, they try to minimize, I guess, how much completely blanked. Holy shit. How many times is getting hit? But basically, I think Jacobs is going to get an extra bit of workload. So that's the reason why I think Jacobs is actually in play for you, Snyder. He's getting 5 to 10 targets. He's getting 20 rushing attempts, 15 to 20 rushing attempts. He gets in the box. That's fine. But I think he gets there on volume at 7K. Like his ceiling is 4 points less than McCaffrey, and he's 2,500 cheaper. So that's kind of what I look at, and I think there's a big window there for him to at least meet value. Outside of that, though, I'm really not super excited. New England, I don't trust. I never know which cheap receiver I'm going to play or which receiver is going to get the action. So between Parker and Kendrick Bourne, that would be the 2 cheap ones. But yeah, I think for me, it's Jacobs is like a one-off. But overall, I'm kind of with Snyder, man. I think this is kind of like a game. The total doesn't look terrible, but I don't see a lot of fantasy production that looks super appealing. I think New England spreads it out enough. Jacobs, like I said, is the only piece, and I don't trust Adams just yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Raiders, if you look at their positional matchup sheet, they are pretty good against wide receivers even as well, and they concede a little bit against the rushing defense here, which has been a split with Zeke and Ramondre Stevenson. So I can't even trust that backfield in New England, which we probably would have thought coming into the season that Ramondre would get most of the work. That has not been the case last few weeks. It's been Zeke getting more and more involved. So it's trust to really get on board with Stevenson here. I know that we just had that question in the chat. I don't hate it from a tournament perspective, but there's a lot of running backs in the slate that I really like, and I'm going to be more aggressive in Xing running backs for my pool, and Ramondre may be a victim of that. I also want to point out just ownership-wise from this game, Jacobs is the most chalk. You're actually having Devonte Adams. This is from SaberSim's projected ownership. Devonte Adams, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, and the Patriots defense all being kind of above 8% into the low teens too, which is a little bit surprising to me, because it's not a great game. It's not a sexy game on paper, but could definitely have some one-offs from this one. And I know Devontae Parker is cheap enough. Kendrick Bourne is cheap enough to where they might hit your teams more than you think if you're running multiple lineups. And if you're only hand building and, you're just kind of wanting to fiddle around, and they're cheap enough to just plug in. If you have any interest in Jacobs, you kind of want a mini stack there. So I don't hate that at all. We're going to move on to a game that we touched on earlier, and it is the one with the Jets in it. Sauce Gardner is out. DJ Reed is out. They are missing key pieces of their secondary. They used to be extremely good against wide receivers, or have been extremely good against wide receivers. I think we can even expect them to take a small step back. And I kind of want to see the spread on this one because Sauce Gardner being out, I know it's not the biggest deal. It doesn't move the spread by a ton. But I love Philly here. I think that's a sneaky spot. And when you guys, when we bring it up, Devontae Smith being unknown, we saw the Eagles came out with a mission last week. Jalen Hurts just targeted Goddard. 6 catches or 5 catches in the first drive alone with a touchdown. And Jalen Hurts is always a guy who has been low owned lately. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter is he was barely owned last week, ended up blowing up. And, I like it as a late game stack. If you're looking for that late game hammer, you want that Millie Maker sweat. I think that Hurts Smith stack could be something I'm intrigued by, Snyder. What do you think here? And to also talk about the Jet side, Breece Hall looked fantastic last week. Tougher matchup this week, though.
This game is kind of wild. I didn't really know that Sauce was out because the spread actually dropped from 7 to 6.5. You're seeing the Philadelphia 6.5 on pretty much all the markets out there. The total is right around 42.5. The Jets defense is, I I guess I didn't know he was even questionable. They've been solid. They've given up some work against the run, though. I think Swift is in a really good spot here. Looking at the Philadelphia defense side, they've been beatable through the air. They've been pretty good against the run, though, so maybe I'll be off of Breece Hall this week. This is an interesting spot, though. I think Hurts is in a good spot here as well. I don't know how much I'll get to him. I've been playing some Hurts. Last week I played him in cash. I don't know what I'm going to – I probably won't get to him this week in cash for sure, but I do want to have some Hurts to Smith stacks this game. A.J. Brown, 7.8. Smith is at 7K. I think Smith's going to be sub 5% this week. I think this is a spot maybe they get Smith going here. I'll definitely have some of him in tournaments. Like looking at the box scores from last year, I mean, he put up 20-plus points in like 4 of 7 games last year to end the season. I think he's a guy that they're going to kind of get going here again. So I have interest in him in tournaments. Nothing huge, maybe 15 to 20% or something, but that's enough to get 3 to 4x the field. So I like Smith. I don't see myself getting to much on the Jets side, though. I didn't play the Jets last week, really, and I probably won't play them this week again. The defenses are – Philadelphia's priced too high. The Jets defense, maybe I could get some splashes of them. Without Sauce, though, it really takes away from them. So really don't have much interest in this game as a whole besides I will have some Swift. I will have some Smith, and then I may have Hurts paired up with Smith there. Maybe I just have Smith as a one-off.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot there. Eagles defense 3,800 going against Zach Wilson too. It's an intriguing game. I think Philly's team total is higher than I would have thought it was coming in, Drew, and obviously the injuries have a key part in that. And even Philly's missing some guys too, as we saw Richie Smalls, say in chat, Slay and Carter are out. And also shout out Dirty Mert DFS. I don't care too much about DFS, but I know, Drew, you do. Congrats on the 13K there, man.
Oh,
Congratulations. Roll that into a milli tomorrow. Good luck tomorrow, Dirty Mert. And Drew, talk to me a little bit about this one here.
Yeah, there's a lot of names, Swift and Sift and Smith and Wilsons and Wilsons. We're getting late into the night. But I like the Eagles D, I think, is in a good spot, obviously, against the Jets. Kind of the same deal with San Francisco against Cleveland. They're actually $200 cheaper. So I think Philadelphia, they shouldn't be more popular than they are, to be honest, but they're not. So I like Philadelphia defense. I've been watching Wilson. I mean, honestly, I might have like a couple of shares of one-offs with Wilson. His price has continued to drop and his ownership has continued to drop. I'm not sure they can really move the ball that well against Philadelphia, but I want to take some shots to get back on early with Garrett Wilson. He's at 6K, and I think he started the season at 7,500, and he was like 16% owned and has quickly dropped back down to 6K. So other than that, man, I think Hurts would be like the one-off spot that we would play with Goddard. I think it'd be too expensive to play Brown with Hurts. They kind of eat into each other a little bit with, if they get inside the red zone, Hurts can actually rush it to get a TD. He could throw it to Swift. So it's really difficult. I actually haven't even pulled up Saber-Sims correlations, but I'd be curious to see under certain game environments where Hurts actually doesn't correlate as well with, or Brown doesn't correlate as well with Hurts in certain scenarios. So yeah, for me, it's the Eagles, and I'll have a few sprinkles of Garrett Wilson at 6K just to get unique. He should be like 5% owned. And that's probably it from this game, man. I'm not super thrilled about it. Oh, Dallas Goedert too, 4,800.
I love it. I think that's a great point on Garrett Wilson too. He was actually someone when I was just making my main team, I was just kind of fiddling around hand building wise. And I got stuck in the 6K wide receiver range because there's quite a few good options. Michael Pittman being one of them, Garrett Wilson there too. I don't know. I just think Garrett Wilson, obviously so cheap, right? Like it's going to be the cheapest. Hopefully it's the cheapest we see him all season. I mean, you can definitely get cheaper, but I do like that call there too. Just get a little bit different from the field. And if you were interested in maybe pairing like a Hurts stack or whatever, you can run it back with unowned Garrett Wilson there. I know everyone's going to be afraid of the quarterback situation, rightfully so. But that is an intriguing one there. And we'll move on to one of our last two games here. The last one will actually be a very intriguing one, but this one has a little bit of juice to it. The Lions going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jahmyr Gibbs looks set to miss. Sam Laporta dealt with a calf issue, looks to be in. Tampa Bay, it looks like Mike Evans is going to be in as well. It's a game where I felt like we expected the Detroit defense to be a little bit worse than they were coming into the season, right? I think they've done pretty well defensively outside, what was it, Seattle game where they conceded a bunch. I guess last week the Panthers kind of got there a little bit late, scoring 14 in the fourth quarter. But I do get some Baker stacks here. I don't love it. And Montgomery as well is going to be a guy who's obviously very popular after last week's outburst. And if we just had comments from, was it Dan Campbell saying, oh, yeah, I don't mind giving Montgomery 20, 25, 30 carries if he has to and stuff. You have a true workhorse running back here. Snyder, how does this game look for you?
Yeah, I think I may go to some wide here. I played him a couple weeks ago in cash. It worked out well. I think this is another spot where we can go to him. He's been seeing double-digit carries in every game, about 15, averaging 15, 16 carries on the game, on the year. Should see probably 3 to 5 catches again in the passing game. So I think he's fine at 5.5. I know David Montgomery is going to be decently popular, not as popular as some, but he should still probably be in that 15 to 20% range. Last week, I thought he should have actually had a bigger game than he actually did, kind of similar to what he did against the Packers a couple weeks ago, but he still had 100-plus yards again for the second straight game. Found the end zone again. I think he's a fine option. Kind of a little under on this game, though. I think Tampa Bay is going to win this game. I think it's going to play slower, so I like both running backs. I was actually hoping that Mike Evans was going to be out because I was hoping to get my Nebraska guy in there, Trey Palmer at 3.9. I think you can still sprinkle him in there. He scored 2 touchdowns on the year already. He's an upside 3.9K guy for like the Million Maker. I think he still makes a really good option in Million Maker formats. Maybe Evans isn't 100% and kind of they just use him as a little bit of a decoy possibly. I still have some interest in Trey Palmer at 3.9 this week. I don't know if I'll go back to Laporta this week. I played him a decent amount last week, but I don't know if I'll get back to him this week. I just like some other spots better. I think at tight end position, 5.6 is still a fine price tag for him. Just a little lower on this game. I like both running backs, and I like Palmer the best in this game.
And I think we'll make this a point too, just because we haven't talked about tight ends a ton. I'll circle back to the end of the show, to talk about tight ends, just to make that an emphasis, because I think we've talked about 3 tight ends so far: Kyle Pitts, Logan Thomas, and maybe slightly TJ Hawkinson. So we'll make sure to circle back on that if you guys are frustrated with the lack of tight end talk. And I also want to answer King of Snack. Is Cincy and Chicago going to be windy? Chicago looks to be very high winds. Cincinnati, I don't see it on my weather app or anything like that, living in the area. I don't expect it to be windy. It would just be a little bit chilly with maybe like a 10, 11 mile per hour wind or whatever is my guess. Drew, talk to me about Detroit and Tampa.
Yeah, I can see why you're going to have some Mayfield stacks. Honestly, I think if Evans is going to get there, Mayfield at 5,400 is probably going to get there too. And honestly, I don't hate stacking Montgomery on the other side, as weird as that sounds. I think Laporte is probably going to be a troublesome spot for me. I'll probably fade. I mean, he's been getting there, but like when you actually like boil it down, he's like barely getting there, and he's getting it through touchdowns. The targets really have not been great. So as good as he's been fantasy wise, I'm not sure it's like I think you're on the tail end of that instead of like, oh, he's getting 10 targets like a Kelsey or something, and he's going to get the regression of the TD equity. But it seems like Laporte has been getting like fewer targets. It looks like he's questionable for tomorrow. I assume he's going to play, but again, I just don't see myself playing Laporte. So again, too bad we can't take the tight end out for tomorrow. But yeah, for me, Mike Evans with Baker Mayfield, I like that. And honestly, Montgomery at 7,300, I think he's got to be like probably the most popular in this game, I'm assuming, just because his workload has been crazy, especially goal line work. So 7,300, that's probably where I'll go. Yeah, that's it. I think the Tampa Bay side, though, is really intriguing.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think Monty in the first run stuff, I didn't get a lot of what I was expecting, but I could have been baked into the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't rolled out just yet when I did make these teams. So, yeah, I think this is an interesting game. I do like the fact that, we have wide receiver options. I mean, obviously Godwin did really well last week, but Evans is there too. So you have a clear pass funnel, or not pass funnel, a clear target tree for Baker Mayfield to target. And I don't hate that. I know Rachaad White You talk about the king of opportunity. The dude gets so many carries, so many touches. Can he finally break the slate or finally just, get double digits or whatever? 5,500. Don't hate taking a stab on that, despite me not ever really loving Rachaad White on a fantasy slate. I do think it's worth maybe a little bit of a glance there. We have a question in the chat that was kind of answered earlier. Chuba or Dante? I think we're all team Chuba here because you guys don't really love Dante too much here. And Chuba, safer option, especially in a PPR format. If it's a no PPR, I think it's a lot closer, but Chuba is going to get the majority of the work. We know that, and we know he is capable of being involved in the pass game. Someone did make the mention that Dante Foreman got 3 targets in week 1, which, hey, that's intriguing. Passing prop is still only 9.5, receiving prop, I should say. So, I mean, that might be a good over to check on if you if that high win. Maybe Justin Fields wants to check it down more, or maybe he just wants to take sacks. Either one wouldn't surprise me at all. The last game of the day, we have the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. And don't forget, we have a complete playbook. We have Gore plays from, some of the best of the best. We got tournament player pools from Big T, JVC, and more. If you guys want to get access to all that information, you're not already a member, we have a special discount code, RPS15, 15% off your first purchase. You can utilize it for weekly, monthly, or annual. And also check out our bets package. It's been absolutely insane this past week. Anyway, I'll digress. Arizona, Los Angeles, very popular game in The Sims. It is actually incredibly popular. Surprisingly, Stafford is the most popular quarterback for me in these Sims. High double-digit ownership here. It's actually a little lower than I thought. He's got Higbee.
27-point total.
Yeah, 27-point team total. That's pretty nice, right? Cup, Higbee. I guess Higbee didn't really do that much last week, and Nakua are the 3 guys who are mostly getting all the targets. Kyron Williams gets all the carries there. Then you want to flip it back to Arizona. Keontae Ingram, he hasn't been ruled in or out yet, right? I actually don't know the status on him. I'll have to look that up. But the running back situation with James Conner being out definitely gets a little bit murky. If Keontae Ingram is in, I think that's almost a stay away from that backfield because DeMercado looked really good, the former TCU standout, I believe. But you do have some wide receivers here. And Josh Dobbs, I'll say this. He can play. I actually like him at quarterback, and I do think this Arizona team has been better than people think. And you got Michael Wilson, you got Marquise Brown. They were utilizing Rondale Moore a little bit last week too at times in the run game, and Zach Ertz. So I mean, there's some more tight end talk. Zach Ertz hit quite a few of my builds there. Snyder, how are you finishing out this slate with the 425 Cardinals Rams game?
Yeah, this is actually my favorite game of the whole slate. I'm gonna look to just throw as many Stafford stacks in there as I can. I love this. I love this team. I love the spot. I mean, the Cardinals have just been absolutely gashed all year long. They've given up 30-plus points in 3 of their last 4 games. Wide receivers have torched them. Just love the spot as a whole. We saw what Chase did to him last week. And we're going to get Kupp here. He's priced at $9K, but I think his ownership is going to be capped here. I think we're going to see Kupp at 15, 18, potentially 20. I think he'll be under 20, though. I think we're going to see his ownership capped with Hill and Chase on this slate as well. So I'm going to be huge on. I love the doubles here. I've listened to a few things around the industry. People are saying you can't double this. We've got the value. You can easily double this. I'm going to have a lot of Stafford doubles. We're going to get Puka at like 5% or less. 8K, yeah, it's fine. Stafford's got a cheap tag, 6-1. I'm going to play a ton of different Stafford doubles. I love Stafford, Kupp, Puka here. I know Kyron's going to be a popular option. I'll probably play Kyron in cash most likely. I love the Stafford doubles this week. I think we could see Stafford throw for 350 in this game. And I think both of those receivers can go 100 plus. Like last week, he didn't throw for over 300. Week before, he threw over 300 at the Colts. 3 of the 5 games, Stafford's thrown for over 300 yards. So I think we see 350 out of Stafford and 3 of the 4 touchdowns here. I think we could see Kupp and Puka both get 2 touchdowns potentially. But yeah, I love this game. I'm going to play them both. Kyron's a great option as well. And I like running it back with a cheap option from the Arizona side. I like going back to Michael Wilson this week. I played him the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago, he had a really good game. Last week wasn't the best, but I feel confident going right back to him this week. Only saw 1 catch last week. He saw 7 the week before and found the end zone a couple of times. Maybe he can get inside the box again. I know Marquise Brown has a questionable tag, but Just looks like that was an illness from earlier in the week. He looks to be fine, good to go. So, I mean, you could run it back with him too. 5.3 is a cheap enough price tag. I think we've got enough value on this slate from the tight end to the running backs where we can run that double here and fit it pretty comfortably.
Yeah, 100%. That's an interesting double for sure. Because what is that? That is like almost half your salary there. But they did both get rid last week.
I've made a few teams on it, and I mean, the teams look fine to me.
The value running backs there. I mean, hell, the value at wide receiver might be there too if you want to dip down to the 4K, low 4K, high 3K range. So, yeah, it's something that definitely could be considered.
It'll be like a 1% owned double, I think.
Oh, I think it'll be way less even. I don't think anyone's going to have the stones to do that. Drew, this game, obviously Snyder said it might be his favorite. Is this one of your favorites as well?
I definitely like pieces from it. It's going to be pretty popular. So, like, stacking it, I'm curious, if you're getting a lot of Matthew Stafford in your sims, like how that pans out in large fields, because it's going to be pretty popular if you're stacking him with anybody. So, I think Cup came back pretty strong last week. I think we talked about him on the show, and I was a little bit hesitant. And obviously his price came right back too. But I struggle to play Cup with Nakua. Like, I feel like that would be like a Tyreek Hill Waddle, both at 9 and 8K, and they both have to score like 40 points or 35 points plus. Can certainly happen, but I find it very difficult, especially with Kieran Williams being cheap. So, like, for me, it'd be Stafford with Cup and Williams, or you can play Stafford with Nakua if you want to take the contrarian side. But for me, man, I think Cup is there. He's the guy. He's him. So Arizona is kind of up in the air. Like, there's cheap pieces, and that's totally fine for like a run back, and that's probably all I would do. I wouldn't go crazy with two Arizona pieces or more. Again, there's enough value elsewhere, but like taking a value piece from Arizona is totally fine.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, I was concerned about Cut maybe not playing the full game or whatever, but like Slater said, Jamar Chase absolutely torched this Arizona defense, right? Through the air, Joe Burrow looked like his old self. Cooper Kupp played 95% of the snaps last week. You were playing Cooper
both saw double-digit targets too, both of them.
Yeah, both. Yeah, that's intriguing. And Cooper Kupp at 9K in this spot last year, you wouldn't bat an eye. You'd actually probably be more inclined to click him. And obviously the ownership is going to kind of reflect that too. What's his projected ownership right now? It is high teens right now. Stafford a little bit lower than Kupp. The Sims are saying to jam Stafford with Kupp there, Drew. They do love that combo. I think Burrow, you can take last week's game as like two things. Burrow looked like his old self, or Arizona's pass defense. It really is that bad. And it could be a blend of both. And yeah, I actually really like Kupp. I think Nakua there is just fine too. Kyron Williams, I like the run back with Marquise Brown. I see he's questionable on Sabre. I haven't seen any injury report on that. But I get 16% of him. I think a lot of it, the Sims don't really value run backs as much in these large field tournaments. They don't really find it as important as, we would have thought coming in, right? So Marquise Brown, 5,300 does make sense for a run back, though. And he looked good last week. Caught, a touchdown early on in the game. Kind of didn't really do much in the second half, but Michael Wilson, too, 3,800. You talk about wanting to fit that double stud of Nakua Kupp there to get really bold in the tournament. There's another value wide receiver to help make that work there, too. So, yeah, I like it. I see tight ends here. I promised that we'd go back and talk about tight ends. Hawkinson is my clear number one, and then it gets really messy. And it's almost like play whoever fits and play whoever correlates. You can do play the correlation first, then if you say you can't find anything, play whoever fits in my eyes. And Hawkinson is my first. Schultz, Ertz, and Higbee. This could change by lock tomorrow for sure. I haven't really ran all my numbers just yet. Curious, just give me your top two tight ends on the slate. Snyder, I'll kick it to you first. Just talk about top two tight ends on the slate, and then we can move on.
Yeah, I think if I'm playing like some Lawrence stacks, I'll definitely have Evan Ingram in there, but he's going to be the chalk option there. Looking a little cheaper. I definitely like Logan Thomas like we talked about, but I think Cole Kmet is another guy I'm going to be overweight on. I don't think he's going to see much ownership at all. It looks like I just pulled up his ownership. It looks like he's going to be under 5%. So maybe Cole Kmet is the guy that I look to jam in there. I played him on the showdown slate. I played him a couple weeks ago. It looks like Justin Fields is like a one-read quarterback. He's got two reads. He looks that way to Moore if in one play, and on the next play, he'll look that way to Kmet. So I think Kmet's a great option at tight end at 4,600. kind of in that no man's land. I mean, Evan Ingram's going to take all the ownership from him at 100 cheaper, and everyone's going there. So why not spend the extra 100 and go to Komet there at 46?
Yeah, that's interesting for sure. And I look at the top 5 tight ends here on the slate in terms of ownership projected by Saber. It's Ingram, like you said at the top, will be the chalk option. Ertz, Schultz, Thomas, and then I'm going to call bullshit on this one. Durham Smythe, 2,900, fifth highest on tight end. It's 6%, so it does show a lot of dispersion at the tight end position and ownership wise, outside of Ertz and Ingram, who are both projected to be high teens, low 20s. Drew, give me your top 2 tight ends on the slate, and I'll also answer Kevin Reitzman's question after you're done about Michael Mayer.
Yeah, Evan Ingram and I think Logan Thomas are totally fine. Probably my top 2. And Meyer's a cheap option. How cheap is he? 2,500.
Who?
Michael Mayer.
Oh, Michael. Let's see Mayer's price.
Yeah.
My thing with Mayer is that he splits time with Austin Hooper, right? I love Mayer as a player.
No thanks.
2,500.
It's not worth punting.
Yeah.
It's not worth punting.
I wouldn't do it on a main slate. I didn't even do it on the showdown slate last Monday, and I did play a couple 200 guys and Patrick Taylor. It's just the situation there is a little bit murky. He still splits time with Austin Hooper. The talent is definitely there, but you can't really trust the opportunity just yet. And I'm not really that excited to be early on a rookie tight end, rather than I would be trying to be early on a rookie running back or a rookie wide receiver. A guy like A-Chain was really great to be early on, but a guy like Mayer, I don't think you have to. And it's a punt tight end after all. Just go for snap counts and targets. And Mayer, looked good in limited time last game, but you can't trust the coaching staff there on that one. Before I let you guys go, we need a play of the day. There's not a ton of chalk on the slate outside the cheap running backs and stuff. So the one rule that I'll have is it's got to be under 20% though. That takes about 10 players from us. Snyder, I'll kick it to you first. Who is your favorite play of the slate?
Yeah, I think there's a guy on the slate. He's going to be under 10% owned. Could lead the whole slate in points scored this week. He went for 27 in the same spot earlier this year. I'm going to go to a guy that's defense is just getting torched by wide receiver ones. Calvin Ridley at under 10%, 6,700. I think he puts up 27 plus in this spot again against this Colts defense at home this time. I've got a lot of conviction in Calvin Ridley for tournaments this week.
I love it. It definitely fits the criteria. Calvin Ridley is projected for about 5 to 6% ownership, which is the lowest of the Jaguars bunch. So really like that one there. I'm with you. I like that game in general. And a guy who I will definitely be overweight on tomorrow and might be doing a little bit of runbacks on is my play of the day, Michael Pittman, who's projected around 12% ownership. I really like that game. And you mentioned it earlier. You could do some stacks with Trevor Lawrence and stuff and just get a run back like Michael Pittman. But I think Gardner Minshew is such a better DFS option for these wide receivers. I think Anthony Richardson is, the better quarterback overall. He's able to kind of win games with his legs too. But Minshew allows these wide receivers to be great, and Downs will have higher ownership and stuff. But Pittman's a guy that I'm going to have quite a bit of interest on at 6,300. I like the ownership being in the very low teens or just the low double digits there. So it's something I'm going to be on. Drew, give us your play of the day.
Sam Howell.
I love it. We have an entire slate of shows early on in the morning. You have the Off the Chalk and the Morning Wood tomorrow for free on this channel, this YouTube channel. If you like the show, hit like and subscribe, and make sure that you guys have a good chance to win $1 million tomorrow. If it's not me, if it's not Drew, if it's not Snyder, and if it's not Little Trop, I should say. I hope it's one of you guys. Everyone have a great rest of your day, and good luck tomorrow, and peace out.